Coffeeed up and ready to go. My first words of the day to you, dear viewer. All over this world. It's astonishing, isn't it? You know, I still haven't put it all together in my brain. What's actually taking place here? Maybe you haven't either. But we have many comments that are discussing it, which I love. Artist Journal, March 31st, 2023, broadcasting to the world from Berlin, Germany. My name is Adrian Pocobelli, and welcome back. Welcome back, a new artist. I am pleased to say we have a new artist here. The work was sent to me. And, so interestingly, and I thought, well, here we go. And it was very interesting, and it seemed to fit right into our discussion about this kind of, as we were looking at yesterday, I guess what we'd call a paint plotter, not a pen plotter, but for those that watched yesterday, the automatic robotic arm with the paintbrush. And then we saw the oil painting on linen and, based on AI, making an AI artwork. And so here we kind of see the inverse with this artist called White Solitude. And don't let me forget to mention Tukes. Actually, I'll just mention it right now. Yesterday, we started with Tukes, and, let me see. I think I brought up Tukes here, and I can't share this on the screen, but I have it here. And I got permission, by the way, way back February 11th to share this with you. I am using ChatGPT to create everything text-related, prompts, titles, descriptions, everything. So doesn't that make you excited? Because Tukes is putting out some incredible work. And if you just know how to prompt ChatGPT, then you can get your prompt. And one of the drawbacks of, say, using Midjourney for me is like, okay, do I want to write a paragraph? How detailed do I want to be? But one of the beautiful things about ChatGPT is it'll give you like 3 paragraphs if you ask it to give you 3 paragraphs. So the plot thickens. So anyways, here is a different artist, White Solitude, a new artist, I'm pleased to say. And so here is the inverse, where we have a 2-dimensional digital image, quite nice action going on here, and that's what it's called, action, a 1 of 1. And let's just look here, an offer from Evelyn O, shout out to Evelyn O. And what happened? A sale for 25 Tezos to Violet Moon Tower. Howdy do in there. Shout out to Howdy do. It's just one big family over here, isn't it? 5 Tezos 33 and sold was the offer and sold for 25. So what is going on here is a 2-dimensional image that would we say, verisimilitude of paint? It looks like paint. So again, we're seeing with the paint plotter, I think we could call it a paint plotter, where the brush is on oil, and so we have a robotic arm. Here we have a software solution that is creating, texture, and you just feel the technology is probably already there based on, say, remember the thing going oil on linen, spraying oil on linen, and I assume the technology is probably already there, somewhere out there, probably close to New York City and Runtun, to be able to construct this 2-dimensional image that we see here as a 3-dimensional painting. Like, it seems like it may already be here, which, again, this is kind of a kind of grail. And this changes digital art arguably forever. Should we be able to do this 3D printing of sorts? Because one could argue one of the greatest drawbacks in digital art is the lack of texture. So it is 2-dimensional, and so you could always kind of you could argue an inherent snobbiness from the traditional art world and say, yeah, but it's all 2-dimensional, right? You'll never have a Van Gogh type experience on an aesthetic level. But my friends, this seems to be changing based on those videos we saw yesterday. If you haven't seen them, they're near the start of the video. They are must-see. So let's take a closer look at what's going on here. And this great painterliness that we see at the bottom here, these brush strokes. Now you go, okay, maybe this person made it physically. So I brought it up close. And I think what we see here is AI. It's clear, and it's even said in the tags, this is AI art, and it's said in the description of the profile. So this is quite something to behold here. Look at these. And it does break down, as it always does with AI when you go up close, but it's not going to matter if, it doesn't matter if you're making first of all, if you translate this, I almost want to use the Calvin and Hobbes term, transmogrify it into a physical thing, say using that, I assume there's some sort of even 3D. They could layer and get the textures up. The technology seems to already be there. I don't think it would matter, actually, if you were to print this out onto a canvas, because I think all of these little kind of artifacts, AI distortions, so to speak, I think they would be, you're not going to reproduce AI artifacts, or what I'm tempted to call JPEG artifacts, or at least not unless they're really big. I think this is small enough that it's going to look pretty convincing as a painting. So anyways, just very interesting to see it come from purely the digital side, this attack on texture. So here are just a couple others, and keeping the colors consistent here, interestingly. So the prompts, and probably similar prompts. Shadow, buy for 1 Tezos. I think it's an edition of 100. And, I want to say clearly painting based on these hard lines, but you could theoretically, it almost looks like a Gerhard Richter type stroke in the background here. Those squeegee paintings, which I don't think will survive the test of time, the squeegee paintings, as much as maybe some of his other work. Speaking of Richter, another provocative thought for you this morning here as we sip our coffee. And anyway, so just it looks like there's layering and almost like some masking here. So who knows? Shadow. And here is just more AI art from an artist calling themselves White Solitude. So again, that one really stood out, action. And I think Shadow was sent to me. Now, just on another front, as far as being a new artist, we were discussing Emily Thompson yesterday. Shout out to Emily and her comment. And, the struggle that almost everybody faces when they start and they're not a known quantity in the digital art NFT space. The challenge is how do you present yourself when basically nobody knows how you are? We've had this big discussion on social proof. This person seems to have done it quite well. Where you see, here they had, a nice work to start out. You make it a huge edition. You make it really cheap. And then you put out some one-of-ones. And before you know it, you already have like collectors on the scene. And then you put out an edition of 10 for 4. And let's just see, 3 selling. So this is not bad at all for someone who's brand new. For all we know, there's Auguste Ground. We're going to talk about Object One today again. Shout out to August and heck. So anyways, yeah, nice work. Hey. So anyways, it's all to say a nice beginning for this artist as well. People are discovering quickly. So a nice sort of handling of the market. And again, I would just keep putting work out is sort of how I approach that. Just a few comments here. The show is becoming the controversy now. It's your show, Runetune. It's your show, do what you want with it. Love seeing the evolution of certain artists, and I love seeing new artists. Yeah, and I think we're all agreed on love seeing new artists, as do I. Thanks as always for your steadfast dedication. You're welcome and more than happy. And thank you all for watching. I never expected this, as many longtime viewers know. Every day in the first episode, it's like, I can't believe more people are watching this. Anyway, also, Human Boy Die with the Most Likes work really floored me. That beautiful painting, I agree. And here, Rada helping out, and with some new artists. Here are some recommended artists on Object. Malk, Joni B, Casper. So I'm going to check out all these artists. I know we've had Joni B on. And also, much love for Taya, also known as Hens. It's where everything begins for me. So that is also interesting from an OG like Rada. And also a response from Quasi Objetto, who was also mentioning the new artists last time. Glad you took that friendly. It was a personal feedback more than a criticism. And that was the way you've put it in that original comment. That is exactly how I took it. Again, amazing journal. I'll always be coming back. That's great, as there's so much to learn here. And I totally appreciate that. And that really translated from your comment yesterday. I'll draw some recommendations then. So delivering to, Agaz, collage extracts on Tea, Nov 1914, on Foundation in Tea, La Muerte de un Perito. So this goes for everybody. This is wonderful. And I will look, I was going to look this morning. I ran out of time, but I'm going to look over the week that I have off, and big show note, I'll be off for a week. This is the last show until Monday. We'll have the Rug Radio show on Wednesday, the Twitter Spaces. Other than that, though, this show is going to be taking a week off and go to Tuscany, a much deserved break from my own perspective. Also, Santiago it's a Kotel, who I believe is part of the Tea team in one way or another. This was kind of a funny comment. I love your show, though it always gives me a bit of anxiety. It makes me feel like a soccer fan who constantly feels the need to yell at the TV. And I think this is inevitable. I think this is probably true for everybody. You're not going to agree 100%, and so much of this is subjective. Again, I call this qualitative science at best. It has a great balance between very solid and nutritious opinions for criticism, in great contrast to gaps in references that would do you good to know. So I am relying on all you out there to help me with that, with feedback, and I'm more than happy, again, to mention these comments and to bring them into the conversation. In the end, it relaxes me to imagine that I don't represent your common audience because besides, I don't even like soccer. So that is great. So I appreciate the comments, and again, I appreciate the feedback. And yeah, I mean, with your help, and look at this, Rada and Quasi Objetto. So that goes for anybody out there. This is the place to do it, in the YouTube comments, because Twitter the messaging is it's hard to keep track of, let's just say. So this is the place to do it. And it's great for the show to have more comments too, and it's just awesome. Like, it will definitely get on my radar. So Escher, let me make this bigger. Escher is officially live. So we looked at the preview maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. Collectors, you can start exploring our curated marketplace and browse, buy, and sell the editions shaping the digital art movement. Artists with showrooms are cordially invited to connect and start customizing your collector's experience. And finally, at Tessera, we view editions as an integral yet underserved part of the NFT ecosystem. Escher XYZ transforms the editions experience for artists to showcase all of their work in one easy-to-view experience. I wonder if it's Ethereum only, though. We're going to look closer. Of course, we enforce 100% of all artist royalties. Artists are the reason we exist, and we'll never forget that. We're also proud today to launch Escher Exclusive, a collective of limited editions by hand-picked set of incredible digital artists. These drops will be presented in seasonal collections and released only on Escher. Season 0 debuts with 3 phenomenal artists. And here we see it. So Die With The Most Likes has a work, and we're going to take a closer look. And then Pop Wonder has a work, and Post work. So I've actually only heard of Die With The Most Likes. These people are probably pretty well known, though. Again, I have huge gaps. This is just someone journaling here, making their newspaper of the imagination in their head here. And so we see, this is the homepage, and you see some familiar work, Kath Simard, X-Copy, so kind of more traditional, Alpha Centauri Kid, Grant Riven Yoon. So some of the kind of big names, Killer Acid, some of the big names in the NFT ecosystem, Sarah Zucker. So let's just take a closer look. I thought it was a little strange how you couldn't maximize. You can do it with video, but you can't with the image. So yeah, that would be a nice option here. Big Election Day. So this is Die With The Most Likes with a new work. Edition of 20. 4 are listed, and so I guess 16 have sold at 0.8 ETH. This one went for 1, maybe on secondary. And this looks like, so it seems to be Ethereum based, unless it's multi-chain, but it seems to be Ethereum based. So it looks like a walled garden or a closed ecosystem, though, not an open one. Artist application, as you can see here. This is a pretty cool work, though, as well. Burn Season by Pop Wonder. So again, I'm not sure if I just can't find the maximize here. And here's Sarah Zucker, and I thought this looked almost like Hasdrubal Waffle. This is probably, I don't know when this is, but it almost looks like a Mario Paint work, and I'll just hit play. Doesn't that remind you? Even the framing, I assume that's a thing that you can do in Mario Paint, but I don't know. Maybe it's not Mario Paint. It almost has a Picasso feel to it, too. Interestingly, Wrestling, a cool work by Sarah Zucker, who I'm not sure if we've ever shown on this show, but she's been around this ecosystem a lot longer than I have, that's for sure, as far as I understand. So, yeah, I mean, on a personal level, I'm completely over the artist application thing, but this is how you would do it. Like, I'm thrilled to be on Super Rare. I think that's enough for me, but you know, we're always on the hunt. So another kind of reminds you of Object One a little bit, even in the kind of feel of it. You know, we're going to take some big players in the NFT ecosystem. In a sense, though, it's the opposite. We're going to put additions rather than, like, Object One was all about the one of one, whereas Escher is all about the additions, which they think is actually underserved. And that's an interesting thought. And I couldn't figure out who the curators were. I didn't see anything. That's kind of true for Super Rare. Like if you go on Twitter, you'll find the Super Rare curators, so it is kind of findable, but I actually couldn't find it anywhere. So, and it uses Ethereum. Here it is the only digital currency accepted for purchases on Escher. So that is interesting too. So there you go. So you can apply, and Tessera is somehow involved with this. Collect what you love together. Welcome to Tessera, the easiest way to collectively buy, own, and govern the NFTs you already know and love. So, yeah. So somehow associated with this. And yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. I mean, so I returned to Object One. I mean, there's not a ton of activity. So it's, when you do these closed systems, yeah, I mean, it does make you wonder, and then we see some works here, but you kind of have to kind of constantly update it, one would think, with content if you want people to regularly go there. So we're kind of watching in real time the benefits and the drawbacks of a closed system, and we're going to continue to, and maybe this will be massively successful, and that's great, but maybe it won't be. I mean, so, and it'll be interesting to see with Escher too. I mean, so this is going to be a real-time kind of, like, we can just kind of eat popcorn and watch. In the next 6 months, we're probably going to have a very clear answer on how, you know, because I'd argue the benefit of Foundation has that what Foundation did brilliantly was actually go from a closed to an open ecosystem where anybody could join. So we're seeing a return to the curation here, but it just seems to me that the success of Object and Foundation are undeniable, and I think Super Rare was very wise to kind of open the floodgates a little bit and bring in a whole bunch of, you know, artists with merit that basically deserve to be there. And Sabato still doesn't have a Super Rare, and to me that's kind of way overdue. Little footnote there, a little side comment. So here is something very interesting. So back to Object. This is Atlas Pop, and shout out to Atlas Pop, who I believe is a pretty prominent collector. I know the name very well. You know you have truly unique work when you use Object.com's new Wander function on a piece, and almost all of the work that comes up is from the same artist. And this is Pamelo Cironi, is a perfect example. So, you know, you have almost a unique style, I think is what Atlas Pop is saying, where I guess there's a blue retina there. So I didn't even know there was a Wander function. Curious if Pocobelli has played with this. I had not. And Pamelo Cironi, by the way, is a great artist. Someone else who we haven't showed enough of. And very consistent playing with this style and evolving with their style. So here's another interesting artist. And look, I mean, this went for auction at 5, a 1 of 1. I think a lot of people would have been happy to pick this up, this 1 of 1 for 5 Tezos, but maybe just not on the radar. So it's a constant challenge. And here's Pamelo Cironi, funny artist machine. Ton of work. Pretty old school Tezos artist. And yeah, so anyways, shout out to Pamela and check out their work. And so, yeah, so what Atlas Pop is talking about is when you hit the 3 dots there, you can hit Wander, and you will get a whole bunch of works that basically have a similar kind of look. It's almost like in YouTube music or Spotify, where you put on radio and it'll give you music that kind of is similar. To me, this is a visual version of that. Very interesting way of kind of discovering new art of styles that maybe you like. Like, we're seeing all sorts of stuff, like who's this? And this is one of the big challenges of this scene is discoverability, right? So kind of an interesting solution from Object on discoverability. Beautiful hints from Rare on how the work is created. I thought this was great. Blocking paintings in can be so tedious. I need to remember to not just jump into the details. So I looked at this, and of course, Rare works on Procreate with some beautiful oil brushes here. But you see what Rare does? See this green? Where it's just like find the outlines and then just you paint it in. So kind of a nice big hint, and then you just remove that layer, right, of the green. And so a nice big hint of how Rare is working really inspires you. And look at these brushes are beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And Rada with, showing the work in the sketchbook here. And I'm not going to play the music for copyright reasons, but you see how much work and how talented of an illustrator Rada is. And it's great. I think it's so important to show this stuff because look at all this. You can see definitely the Crumb influence, can't you? And we've discussed that in the past. Look at it. So it's worth it to show this because people simply don't know until you do. And it's like, okay, Rada's not some guy that just started making art 2 years ago, to make some NFTs. Like, here's someone who, is very committed, and look at that. So, I think this is all well worthwhile. Very cool. Now, we've added some new artists, but this is a very important lesson here, this work by Demon Ego, of why it's great to follow the evolution of artists. Because what we have here with Demon Ego is a return. This is a physical work here. And this is basically mixing the old physical style with the new layout and ideas. And let me show you what I mean by that. So here are Demon Ego's recent works that are done digitally. And here are Demon Ego's, and I believe they're all physical, as I think Demon Ego actually replied and said, yes, they're all physical to one of these earlier videos that we did with Demon Ego. So these are all physical, and then started putting out these really interesting digital series. And here we see how they're being joined up. And this is physical. Let me just show you. Paper Collage by Demon Ego. Okay, part of a new series, Demonic Experiments. So a pretty attractive work. And you see how talented Demon Ego is. So all to say, you see how now both series are kind of being blended together. And also how working physically is a different process for Demon Ego, and so you get a different kind of result. So anyways, just very interesting. Continuing on, Lydian Stater. 2 weeks, join us for our NFT New York City after party featuring the launch of new works by Zesis Bliatkas. And I think we've shown work. So here's just some interesting, and that's hilarious music. I am going to turn off the music, though, for copyright reasons. So just some cool Microsoft Paint works. And I remember, I think, seeing this artist maybe about 6 weeks ago. We took a look. I mean, there are so many artists out here that it is hard to keep track of everything. But here, we're doing the best we can here, starting at 50 Tezos, editions of 5. So anyways, just kind of interesting. Includes archival inkjet print. So we're starting to see, I feel like, a little bit more and more of this physical thing, which I think is great. And again, it presents certain, inkjet is basically the simplest solution. You simply print it. But then it's like, oh, well, should part of it be screen printed? Should part of it be painted? Do you use crazy machines like we saw with the paint plotter? Anyways, mech.txt, mild insanity is an understatement of what has just happened. So this work here, this one of one from the My Mom is So Awesome series, shout out to Mom, and 669 Tezos from FUCK Render, the Living Myth who is a very prominent artist, clearly in this space, 174,000 followers, sold at Christie's, Sotheby's, and so on. So anyways, so collecting on Tezos and Michael Micasso with a very nice sale for a pixel artwork. Super cool. And I actually brought up a definition from ChatGPT of pixel art, which we'll see later in this episode, which is super interesting, going back to our earlier discussion on definitions of pixel art. I thought it was a quite excellent definition. Speaking of pixel art, here is a super interesting artist who I'm sure you know, Gogolitis. And first of all, before we look at the kind of financial side of this free mint piece, one of the things I find so incredibly interesting with Gogolitis' work right now is this pixel art that is almost not looking like pixel art. Like it's almost starting to become very smooth for pixel art. And I haven't seen too much of that. And also just, pushing the boundaries of color here, just incredibly interesting and beautiful work. Gogolitis free mint ticket, 1 Tezos, or 1 free mint Tezos ticket, valid for any mint, minimum 20 editions. Send your ticket back to activate, no expiration date. So what does this say? And we'll run through it quickly here. Let me just see. Just checking our time here. Here it is. Okay, we're good. Okay, free mint ticket. Congratulations, you are the lucky owner of a free mint ticket. Handle it with care because it is a utility art token that holds immense power. When you possess a free mint ticket, you have the power to claim any future artwork. The free mint ticket. So any future artwork, the free mint ticket is valid for any artwork minted in 20 editions or more. How to unleash the power of the free mint ticket. Before each of my drops, if the artwork is minted in 20 copies or more, you will receive a private message containing a link to the artwork before it is listed. I assume on Twitter. At that moment, you will have the option to send me back your free mint ticket. If you do so, you will receive the artwork in exchange before it goes on sale. Your free mint ticket has no expiration date. Animated pixel art by Gogolitis. So, pretty interesting mechanics here. The creativity is, I love just the ongoing creativity we see in this space in terms of the mechanics of the market and the buying and selling of art. And here is just another example. A slightly more complex example, but I think it's pretty straightforward. If you can get one of these, I think you can get a copy. Kind of guarantees your copy of the upcoming mints of over 20 editions. Lucas Ox. So another artist that I don't think we've looked at. I used to get hypnotized by the flicker of the screen, and maybe that's why I'm still here. So this was minted on the 25th of March, and I think we have a couple of others. So just interesting abstract pixel art here. I think we could, generative art, actually, video synthesis and glitch art from Argentina, where so many artists come from. Okay, so that is what's going on. And here's another one. This is how I found Lucas Ox. This was shared on Twitter, 2V for the affection of the third. So just an interesting kind of, again, I'd put this under animated abstract. As we expand our reach over here, interesting kind of narrative in this abstract as well. How it all comes from these 3 RGB dots, and they all kind of unify in the end. Interesting. Zoxo.xtz, which I believe, I found this in Haiti Rockette's collection recently, so just kind of an interesting star work here, interesting animation. And continuing on, so that's zoxo.xtz, and Francoise Gamma, who has started a new wallet. So I'm assuming Francoise had to do that because of the getting scammed And I mean, that's maybe more devastating than the money is the work, and there's probably royalties on the work and everything. So be very, very careful out there. I picked one of these up. Really cool pixel art of someone walking. And yeah, I think I brought up, yeah, see this? A new wallet, a digitally embodied entity using the internet to draw animated GIFs. So yeah, so if you want to help out Françoise Gamma, you can support them here. I wonder if Françoise lost their entire collection. And there's Eile with some flowers, and we'll look at this one. We'll look at both those actually today. So anyways, and here's another cool work from Françoise Gamma, Run CRU, another variation on the theme, a very, very memorable, cool theme. Look at this beautiful work by RJ, Computer in the Garden. I'm feeling the spring. A beautiful, I think we could call this pixel art. It's got that hard edge. We'll compare it to our definition that we find in ChatGPT. A nice treatment of what I guess we could call grass, but I'm not sure it's grass. Maybe it's just digital fun. Because, you know, red, maybe it's almost like flowers, it's almost like grass, it's almost just, you know, a celebration of spring. And that's what you see actually here, a spring garden online. Maybe that's the best title. I picked one up myself. The Side Hustle with a new one. And this is using graphics too, so retro tools. I thought this was a pretty nice work, almost a variation, kind of a slightly more complex work from Side Hustle's other work, also known as Pixel Nachos. Quite like the treatment of these kind of paintings on the wall and even the steps. So this, I believe, is this sold out? This sold out for only 2 Tezos. Yeah, so people are buying more than one when it's that cheap. LB picked one up, and yeah, so you'll have to make an offer for that. Oh, that's an open edition. So this is interesting because sometimes you get scared off of open editions because you think, oh, you know, 50 are going to be minted. But what you're seeing is actually open editions aren't necessarily minting out that high a number. So I've seen that a few times now. Green Ginger, a newer artist we have added here, a new chapter. After being utterly defeated in an all-out war, he had no choice other than continuing his life by escaping. Having only one time portal, he time-traveled to the past. Once arrived, he found himself on a coastline. He then remembered about his family and friends he left behind, but life must go on. I thought that was a beautiful write-up, which is why I read it here. So there is the time portal, I believe. Kind of reminiscent of Ultima there. And I thought just a really nice composition. Interesting wide composition because you could argue you could have cut it off here, but this darkness here, this shadow that bleeds all the way over is actually quite a nice effect. So a Tezos 50 from Green Ginger, and someone we are very familiar with, a very cool, ambitious piece from Ed Marola, Bad Dream. And here is a lot going on. We're starting to see more and more of this light situation where you see this black gradient that just kind of flows through. We kind of saw it in, I think, a commission recently. So an added touch, I think, from Ed, and a lot just going on here. Kind of a surrealistic work, I guess maybe not surprisingly, called Bad Dream. And you see the snake and then the tongues. These are kind of, at least the tongue is a classic Ed Marola. So is the skull and the little devil figure and crows and castles. So all sorts of stuff. And the trademark movement of just kind of moving the canvas around a little bit and animating things. Really beautiful trademark effect. And almost, you see here, you almost see the cracks of oil paint in this light here. It really reminiscent of like when you're photographing oil paintings. Somehow Ed has managed to get a kind of effect like that. Again, giving it a really rich texture. So buy for 0.16 ETH on Foundation. Ed's been doing very well on Foundation. I think almost everything is sold. So that is pretty cool. Here, yeah, sold. I guess this one is still available. But you see, well, a lot is selling. Let's put it that way. Look at all these sales. So Ed's doing really well. And this one is coming up for the Foundation drop with Lagojo. Shout out to Lagojo. And here are a few more by Ed Marola. Tego Dago Mountain. An interesting, again, this texture here, an interesting landscape with a little, or mountain range, really, with a little bird and just a hint of clouds here. So beautiful. And here are just some more kind of mysterious, kind of almost dreamlike works. Death of Football. And you see a soccer field or a football field. And you see a woman, so almost like a dream here. You see a balloon and some interesting animations, and almost like some sort of rite is taking place here with something burning in the middle. Almost referencing the ritual of sporting events in a certain sort of way. That might not have been planned, and I actually think this is a great touch. This kind of is Magritte-esque, putting in this, what would you call that? Kind of this, it's not a barrier, but this ring, I don't know what you call those, but where you put, for red carpet to keep everybody away. That is a nice touch, because Ed has used that in a gallery work, and reusing it here on the soccer field is almost a Magritte-esque move, in my opinion. 12 Steps, another work by Ed Merola, which I thought was well worth looking at, kind of more of an ancient feeling, kind of has a cave feel to it. Again, it almost feels like old rocks and, carvings into rocks. Has that kind of Lascaux feel to it, or rock art sort of feel. Very interesting by one for 79, well, one of one. And here's some very experimental work. I was wondering about the song, if it was based on Driver's Seat by Sniffin' the Tears. A great song, by the way. Great 80s track. And here, experimenting with the dithering, a different kind of composition for Ed, I would argue, almost coming from a first-person narrator, so to speak, point of view. And you can kind of see maybe Ed or the artist or somebody in the car here. Interesting work by Ed, one of one for 55 Tezos. Popple. Popple has another beautiful work. Shout out to Popple. The Bjork of pixel art, someone was saying yesterday on Twitter. Couple of Codependency. I actually really like this title too. Couple of Codependency. So first of all, here is the work. And you see, it's almost got a Max Ernst feeling to it, where it's like the groom and the bride, this sort of thing. It has this kind of, couple sort of feeling to it. Couple of Codependency, part of the Sanitarium kind of monster series. Coiling and writhing in a deadly dance, each desperate to break free from the other's trance. Their eerie presence fills the murky space as they fought for dominance in the silent race. Probably helped with ChatGPT. And who knows? I mean, Popple's a writer, but I have heard that if you're trying to write poetry in ChatGPT 4 versus ChatGPT 3.5, which is the free one, apparently it's like an order of magnitude better, the poetry in ChatGPT 4. Anyway, this is pretty good, and I think a great title. And everybody should know what codependency is, by the way. Very important thing, especially in selling art and everything. You don't want to be codependent, and if people don't buy your work, then you feel sad. I mean, there's a certain inevitability to it, but ultimately, you kind of want to be independent of that as much as possible. Tom Bombadil, Good Morning. So a cool, interesting take on Good Morning by Tom Bombadil, almost kind of, I want to say, rustic and in a cabin of sorts. One of his characters here, the guy with the skull, and a ladder going up, and interesting kind of work here. So edition of 21, sold out on primary. Let's just see what Tom is selling things at now. Still 5 Tezos, and sold out pretty quickly here in a few hours. Look at all this action here. So yeah, sold out in like 2 hours, 3 hours here. So that is pretty good. A quick 100 Tezos in Tom's pocket. Stippen Pixel. This series I continue to just enjoy and find interesting here. Prism for Breezes. And so another one, this almost looks like an island or something with this building in it. It almost looks like a boat coming up to the island, but I can't tell. So fairly abstract pixel art, even though there is representation here. And there is a reference to the sea and the jungle here. So interesting and mysterious, my favorite word here, I think. Manidal with another from what I consider an instant classic series here, this Cat Tarot, Temperance. And let's read what Temperance is as we continue to learn here. The 14th tarot card, and then we're going to speed things up, represents tranquility, patience, moderation, and harmony. It refers to moderation, equilibrium, self-improvement, and avoiding extremes. This card encourages you to maintain your composure even in the face of stress or adversity. Keep your emotions in check and maintain a level temperament. You will attain and feel life fulfillment as a result of your respect for harmony and peace. So that is temperance. And that's a nice detail there in the water there. So continuing this beautiful series here. A very quick definition of pixel art here that I brought up from ChatGPT-4, because we've been discussing this for a few months actually. Pixel art, so this is what ChatGPT has to say, and I thought it was actually pretty good, is a form of digital art that is created by manipulating individual pixels, which are the smallest elements of a digital image or display. These pixels are arranged on a grid, with each pixel representing a single color or shade. The artist designs an image or scene by carefully selecting and placing each pixel to create the desired appearance. Pixel art is often characterized by its low resolution, something we've brought up over here, blocky or pixelated look, and is reminiscent of early video game graphics and computer art from the 1980s and 1990s. It has experienced a resurgence in popularity in recent years, both as a nostalgic art form and as a style used in modern indie games, animations, and other digital media, I'd almost argue, and in contemporary art. The limited color palettes and low-resolution nature of pixel art can lead to a unique aesthetic and challenge artists to convey detail and depth with minimal resources. So very interesting, helpful definition here. And you see the threat to Google here? Because why would I go to Google or Wikipedia when I can just ask here and get a very nice definition without even having to search? It's more just query. What is your question? The Oracle will tell you. So impressive definition there, and kind of helpful because ideally I want everybody to walk away with something here. So now I think we're starting to get a pretty good idea. We've had the discussion on pixel art and different definitions. Here's another one. This is super interesting. You don't know who we are. I kind of feel like I do know who this is. I feel like it's Santiago and maybe Human Kernel here, but who knows? So anyways, some interesting work here, and I'll show you where this came from. Pretty good looking, and we've seen others from this series. Ilay put one out, edition of 10, so a couple have sold here. Ilay has picked up one, Ed Marola. So yeah, kind of have a feeling we have a certain idea, and I think it's used using this drag and drop draw. Drag and drop image, and then, yeah, so this is something you can use to make those images, I believe. Drag and drop any image from the internet to use as a brush. There's an opacity slider and a size slider, and I believe they're making this is Human Kernel and Santiago, I believe they're making this with ChatGPT. Again, so you see AI and ChatGPT, again, remember Tukes? Those works, according to Tukes, as far as I understood the message, the prompt is being created by ChatGPT. Think about that. So Ilay also has a work in that series, and I think she's taking one of her AI works and then giving it the treatment in that previous, in the drag and drop draw. So all very interesting. And continuing on, this must be a work by Santiago because it's taking so long to load. 10,000 by 14,000 pixels. So here is a new one, a 1 of 1 for 500 Tezos. So pretty interesting. I would make it large, but it would probably crash my microphone, and we're too close to a vacation to do that. And continuing on, Tez Nouns. So the Isolationist has a work with Tez Nouns, so pretty cool. Nice treatment. Interesting treatment. This is a special edition artist variation for the Tez Nouns collection, bridging the gap between PFP art inspired by Creative Copyright Zero. I'm not even sure what that stands for copyright-free spirit of nouns on ETH and top iconic artists on Tezos. So pretty cool. So kind of a nice, so ETH and Tezos kind of joining together here with Tez nouns. I didn't realize that was the spirit of the project. Wasteman Goldminovich with what looks like a portrait of Elon Musk in MS Paint with hashtag broke. So I thought this was just kind of a fun portrait here, and actually a fairly good portrait. Kind of looks like Elon. And there's another one that came out that I thought, look at this. I thought this was actually a pretty nice work. I guess this is Lone Wolf. I don't try to art. So actually, they're on Super Rare. So I've never actually seen this artist before. Anyways, I thought this was a very nice painting here. So anyways, more things in passing. So this is Pepe Landia, and then we're going to run through the rest here. So there are a few works as part of this series. And I think Purple Drank or Drank Frazetta is involved. Anyways, this is by Morlacos. And this is, of course, I think it's Jean-Jacques Louis David's Death of Marat, which we're going to look at here. So here it's Pepe. And we're going to look at the original here. Bad News, Long Air Bear. And this is actually super interesting. So this is the original, very famous work here that many of us are familiar with. By Jacques Louis David, Death of Marat by David. And let's read this quickly because it was actually, I read this paragraph here and it's actually quite interesting because this is a very famous painting. I didn't know too much about it. The Death of Marat is a 1793 painting by Jacques Louis David depicting the artist's friend and murdered French revolutionary leader Jean-Paul Marat. One of the most famous images from the era of the French Revolution, David painted it when he was the leading French neoclassical painter, Montagnard, and a member of the Revolutionary Committee of General Security. Created in the months after Marat's death, the painting shows Marat lying dead in his bath after his murder by Charlotte Corday in 1793. Art historian T.J. Clark called David's painting, and this is the interesting part for me, the first modernist work for, quote, the way it took the stuff of politics as its material and did not transmute it. So and what I take that to mean is, there is no Zeus, there is no allegory here. It is just straight up kind of a political painting, the Death of Marat. That is interesting, and in that respect makes it modern, according to T.J. Clark, who is a British art historian and writer. Interesting. Continuing with the Pepelandia series, Pepe City. So here is Kappa Sage, and kind of a classic Kappa work here, and kind of surreal and everything. So here is another one, and almost, I can't remember what you call these guys here. So anyways, just interesting. Card 2, here's card 3. There are some other works. This is Bazaya. Bazaya has some other great works too with this kind of background. So here's a new one, Double Pepe, and I'm pretty sure this is a pretty famous soccer player. I recognize him from the World Cup here. So anyways, interesting, and let's keep going here. And Purple Drank, Know Thyself, Each New Day, Infinite Possibilities. Give us this day our daily GM. So very cool, kind of a stained glass feeling there. I don't know what they're up to. Directory and Art Magazine, but it's interesting, and there are some other works here too. Continuing on, Antonio Love's Ace of Wands. So another really cool, what I'd call surreal drawing, surreal illustration. At least you have a lot of energy to do something right for you. 4,000 by 4,000 digital drawing. And someone holding what looks like fire coming out of a kind of cloud. Again, very surreal, classic colors from Antonio Love's Ace of Wands. I'd love to see a surreal card deck done like this. An unusable card deck. Edition of 8, available for 24 Tezos. Is that on secondary? Let's just look quickly. This was probably sent to collectors. So yes, that is on secondary. Flora Marquez, a new one for the second last day of March. The Future is Scary. So doing a devil type figure. So very cool. It's going to be interesting to see if anything changes in May. Fokek from Super Rare, Crypto Fokek. Well, I'm working on the 4th piece, just a reminder of this. And so here is more work, and I believe we have some great, so just kind of cool retro UI. It's got like an 80s Tron feel to it. Cybernetic Control Matrix Keepers. So I'm not sure what Crypto Fokek is up to, but it's interesting, isn't it? So we'll continue to track it. Coda Nakazono, continuum number 89, so a new one. And playing here, this seems to be really almost like a mirror cube, and seems to be like a new element, this dripping part here, almost because it's very three-dimensional as well, so it comes almost into the space of what I call the biomorphic form here. And then contrasting with that very kind of flat shape behind it. So anyways, interesting. Probably sold out right away. Just offers coming in. Look at that. So Coda is on fire. Totally on fire. There's Sabato. Yeah, I mean, Coda is on fire. I think this was retweeted by Sabato, actually. This is a 3D GLB photogrammetry work, Globo Podicero Lidice S. And anyways, here's the work. And it looks like flowers in 3D. And I think this is available on Object. I'm not sure if it's flower. What do they call? Wish You Roses. So kind of rose. Here you see some flowers coming in here. So there it is. So anyways, interesting. Another definition, and this is our last show before we take a week off. So how are we doing here? We're good. We're going to finish this under an hour here. Glitch art is so what is glitch art according to ChatGPT? Because again, I think it's important. We can say all the words in the world that we want, but if we don't have definitions, then we kind of don't know what we're talking about. This is a kind of classic Greek philosophical thing, which many of you already know. It's define your terms. One could argue the first rule of, I suppose you'd call it Western philosophy, is define your terms. Okay? And so that is basically what we're doing here, is we're defining our terms. So what is glitch art? And this is going to be a familiar definition, I think, for a lot of us. But this kind of came up with the Sotheby's thing, and we're going to see a little bit of glitch art here. Glitch art is a genre of visual art that involves the intentional manipulation of digital or analog errors or glitches. So we could almost call it error art, okay, in a creative way to produce aesthetic or thought-provoking works. It is closely associated with the digital era, as it often involves the use of digital tools or technologies to create unique, visually striking images or videos. The process of creating glitch art may involve using specific software, hardware, or techniques to intentionally corrupt, alter, or disrupt the normal functioning of a digital file, image, or video. So the intentional error making of a file, corruption, disruption, this can result in unpredictable and unconventional visual effects that are often characterized by visual distortions, pixelations, color shifts, and other artifacts. It can be seen as a form of artistic expression that embraces the imperfections and flaws inherent in digital systems, challenging traditional notions of beauty and perfection in art. It also explores themes such as the fragility of digital media, the relationship between humans and technology, and the role of chance in the creative process. That's probably my favorite thing about glitch art. Like, if I was to incorporate it, it'd be for the chance and give me some good randomization of digital stuff. Some popular techniques used to create glitch art include data bending, pixel sorting, and circuit bending. Super interesting. These methods often involve altering the code or structure of a digital file or manipulating electronic devices to produce the desired glitch effects. So, and I suppose that would be more like video, manipulating electronic devices, where we see people using all these different videos and VHS players. So there you go. So hopefully this is adding to our understanding here as we work our way through. And here is a work by Sabato that he just put out, Creation of Identity, the Face of a New Generation. So playing with this Pepsi logo here, and it says Pepsi is changing up their logo again, so in honor of the Cult 2008 deck by Arnell Group, a masterpiece in corporate sophistry that spawned the current logo, here's a glitched page from the branding deck, a data bending PNG file made in 2018, now in open edition on Tezos. So minting an older work, by the way, and playing with this Pepsi logo. So interesting, open edition. I think it's very low. I think these open editions might be an opportunity because I think the first reaction is, oh, this is going to mint for 60 copies. Maybe I don't need to get this. But if it's an edition of 4 from Sabato, that's pretty exciting for $333. So far, it's an edition of 2. And here is, again, Sabato's page. And yeah, so anyways, we've seen a lot of this already. So again, putting AI, putting the drawing exercises, there are different ways of kind of, taking care of your page. And yeah, Sabato is always interesting to see how he does it. This was also retweeted by Sabato, by the way. Cracks to break something so that it does not separate, but very thin lines appear on its surface. Project mintable at FX hash. So it kind of looks glitchy. I'm not sure, but maybe it's generative art. So I'm not sure how these bleed into one another. Sure has a glitch feel to it, though, doesn't it? So interesting, that is from Photo Evaporation. And here is the link, and continuing on. So here is Glitched David, and this is called Redshank. And let's take a look at this. No volume, and yeah, just kind of looks like the glitched out TV, or a TV that's not working properly. Kind of reminds me of my youth a little bit, the old TVs here. So a guide, that was an interesting title. Let's just quickly look. A Guide to British Birds Glitched. I love it. And here's Xmortal, and we've seen Xmortal's massive studio. So here are some of the products from that incredible studio here. This is from Noise Studies. I love that too. So here NS05, here's 06. So just playing with video noise and different results that you're getting here. And I think we have a couple more, 08. So just kind of interesting. Feedback loop. And we already saw that. Midnight Memory. So this is by Tachyons, one of the first early artists actually I came across, one of the first glitch artists I came across on Tezos. So Midnight Memory, Vortex decoder, VCR, Trinitron CRT TV, A6000 cameras. So I assume, going on that ChatGPT definition, that we could call this video work glitch because it's often, everything we see here seems to be kind of like errors of TV or VHS, and I think that gets grouped in there. We saw that at the end of the definition, Midnight Memory. And here's one by Glitchtown Arcade, AI, analog glitch processes, and digital manipulation. And this one is super cool when you see it in slow motion. As it was loading up, I loved the different little frames in here. They're beautiful. So Diva, entities, and continuing on, another one, Jada.tez, video art with the touch designer and analog process via Panasonic. So this is a whole genre, to state the obvious here. And here is some more. Kind of feels pretty glitchy to me. So interesting combination of color and texture here. And mismatcher. Exploration of patterns, movement, and color. So very interesting. And Dr. Version, big shout out to Dr. Version, who's been on a few of the spaces, which has been totally awesome. So a new work by Dr. Version here, playing with the pyramids, but expanding out to these squares and rectangles here. Landscape 11, big GIF, and just very pretty textures here and interesting movement and everything, interesting composition. So cool experimentation from Dr. Version. Edition of 8, there are 3 left at 8 Tezos. Espinoza V2, and then we're really gonna pick up the pace. We're almost done here. Deconstructing. So this went around too. This is an edition of 111, and I believe it's sold out. Oh, it was transferred. Okay, so this got sent out to a lot of people. I think probably using NFT biker tools. I'm going to have to try that out over the week here. And anyways, it kind of looks like Jesus of Nazareth here, doesn't it? VHS, premium cable, CRT TV, and iPhone 14. Very interesting. And Bolin 132, a collage and, well, I was going to say collage artist and painting. The NFT collection showcases my signature technique of painting. So this is an oil painting, I think. So Bolin 132, I mean, it kind of looks still like a combination of things. I'm never really quite certain what's going on with Bolin 132, but it looks pretty cool. We have another one too. Format, oil painting. So is this, maybe these are real, quote unquote, real physical works. They're looking good though, aren't they? I'm never quite sure. Tezos art, NFT art, oil. So maybe oil paintings then. And I brought artist we started with, White Solitude, just back to look at how almost well these go. So imagine if those other ones are oil and then this is made with AI. I mean, it's just, the brush strokes are kind of equally convincing when you see it as a flat image. Isn't that interesting? I mean, that's how good the AI is getting. Badala, Red Hut. So I haven't seen a work from Badala for a while, so here is a new one. So just kind of cool AI art, I believe. Illustration. I thought these are AI, but I'm not positive, actually. It doesn't say AI. It is almost vacation time, folks. Look at this. Scandal. Pinkish, pinkish, pinkish. This is fabulous. Scandal with this beautiful work here. So pretty sure this is AI. Sabato retweeted that one too. Really nice. They're all over the AI art cars or car art. And here, finally, I lay Camellias Burn with some nice kind of burning flowers done in AI. Here's some others, interesting colors here too, very painterly and everything. It's looking great. It's looking very nice. Buy now for 1 Tezos, edition of 15, 7 left. And finally, Kika Nikolela, I would give you my eyes, an octopus delirium. And here it is. I thought this was an interesting work, kind of surreal, almost reminded me a distant echo of a Delvaux or something, Paul Delvaux. Interesting work. And so this is AI as well. And here is a physical artist, Satrio Udo, that I'd never seen before. So interesting artist, as you can see here. I'm going to go up close to a couple. A lot of skulls, which are hard to pull off, but Satrio seems to do that. So here it is, a work. I think these are physical because they're on Instagram here. And usually that's a sign of contemporary art. Here's another one. And yeah, it kind of looks like oil painting, but it's not really specified. So it's hard to say. I mean, this could be digital painting. It's always good to say, just in terms of the collector. And finally, Yoao, with another super cool plasticine work. This looks like inside a subway car with what looks like fire burning at the back there. Hard to tell. With skulls. So maybe a picture of hell on a subway there. And that is your show, everyone. So I'll see you a week from Monday, but I'll see you on Twitter Spaces next Wednesday. Thanks again for joining me. Thanks for the comments. And I hope you have an awesome weekend. Until next time, take care.